Welcome back, guys. So the PlayStation Classic has been the hot news this week. I'm super excited, and I know a lot of you guys are as well. Maybe some people not so much, and that is fine. You know, this kind of stuff isn't for everyone. But on my channel, I like to talk about options and different ways to play our retro games. So with a lot of people out there kind of being a little skeptical on the PlayStation Classic, a bunch of people had brought up, hey, didn't Sony already make a device that was essentially the PlayStation Classic? And that got me thinking, you know what? Yes, they did. And is that a viable option to use to play our PlayStation games, our original PlayStation games? So, this is not the device we're talking about today, but if you remember, back in 2012, Sony released the PS Vita. I love this handheld. It was pretty darn sweet. Big problem with this was Sony didn't really support it very well. We didn't get a lot of AAA third-party titles on it. The memory cards were extremely expensive and were proprietary, so only Sony made them and sold them. And I believe some of that ultimately led to not a lot of people adopting this device. I still think it's sweet. There's still games being made for this, but definitely really wish this would have succeeded. It deserved to, but hey, somebody dropped the ball there, right? So 2012, that's when this came out. Now the device we're talking about today actually came out a couple years past that in 2014. And that is the PSTV. This little guy right here. This is a little console. An official Sony console. Pretty sweet. This is the smallest console that I've pretty much seen from an official company. And this does play PlayStation 1 games officially. It also plays Vita games and a bunch of other downloads and PSP games and whatnot. So is this a viable option? Now, this unit here, it might look a little beat up, a little scratched up. This is from day one. I've had this since it released. I was super excited to get this. It was pretty cool. You could use it for various other things. The main thing I used it for was mirroring my PlayStation 4. So if I wanted to go to bed or something and, fall asleep playing a game, I would have this plugged into my room where my PS4 was in another room, and I would tap into this and mirror my PS4, and it worked out pretty well. That was the main thing I used this for. But playing games, playing Vita games on your TV was pretty sweet. This is essentially a consoleized PlayStation Vita. If you take a look on the back there, if it'll focus, we have our power plug port, Ethernet, HDMI, a USB, and then a memory card slot for the proprietary Vita memory, and then a button to power it on. So that's the back of the console. The front, which on my unit's very scratched up. I really wish I would have taken care of this a little better, but it is what it is. Kind of one of those things I just threw in a drawer. Slick front, shiny with the Sony logo on it. Pretty cool. On the face, on the top, the PlayStation logo etched into it. Pretty nice. And then on this side we do have a slot for Vita games. Pretty cool little device. So when this launched, it was $140 and it came with the DualShock 3 controller and I believe the Lego Movie game. Now it didn't sell very well or whatever the case may be, and a lot of retailers started clearancing these really low prices. That bundle I remember seeing for like $50. The single unit where it didn't come with anything, no controller or game, I would see it for like $20 to $30. It was crazy. I kind of wish I would have bought a couple of them to hold on to them, just to make sure I had one. Especially because, if you haven't updated this thing, I'm not really too familiar with the hacking scene on these, but they can be hacked. You just want to make sure you don't get on the latest firmware on the device. So if you get one new out there, and I have seen these new in a few places where they weren't the clearance price anymore, they were like $100 or $140. I don't think that's necessarily a bad deal because these things are becoming harder and harder to find now. But today we're going to go ahead and take a up close look. We're going to plug this bad boy in, capture some footage, take a look at the user interface, see how it works, what we can do with it, and talk about, is this a viable option for playing PS1 games? It is a mini console, right? So is this the original PlayStation Classic? Let's plug it in and find out. All right, so we are on the PS TV now. And as you can immediately notice, it does use the same interface as the Vita. Hey, so love it or hate it, it does work, but it does, kind of leave a little to be desired. But all these bubbles are going to be our options. So what we're specifically going to look at, and we'll take a quick look at each of these, is going to be the PS Store to see, what kind of PlayStation 1 games we have, what are the price ranges, all that kind of stuff, to see if it's a viable solution. The PS4 link, we'll briefly take a look at that. Then we'll also take a quick look at playing a Vita game on our TV, and then also take a look at a PlayStation 1 game running on here. So first off, let's just jump into a Vita game. I already had this one booted up. And I think this was, pretty cool. This was one of the selling points for me, definitely, was playing some of my Vita cartridges on my TV. This game was a dual release on the PS4 as well, so, it wasn't a huge deal, because I did have it on the PS4 as well, but there were a lot of Vita exclusives, and it was kind of cool to play them on your TV. Now, for sure, there's some games that were heavy on the touchscreen controls, and I know there was a whitelist of games that either didn't work on this, or, you would have to kind of figure it out and play it kind of funky. But me, I never really played any of the games that required touchscreen controls, so it didn't really matter to me. Some games would have different options to remap certain things, and if you had to use the touchscreen for a game, you could use the analog sticks. You would press in the analog sticks, like as you can see here. You would have an option for front and back, and then just different things there as well. So you could always figure it out. I am using a DualShock 4 controller on this. It does support DualShock 3 and 4, so that's definitely a cool thing. But let's go ahead and exit out of this game. It is pretty cool to play Vita games on the TV, not gonna lie. But now, what I want to show you is, if we go into the PS Store, we're gonna be able to find a decent number of PlayStation Classic games. So I don't see any specific PS1 tab here, which really the store on the Vita is it's just crap. I hate the way it works. But if you go on here and you just search for PS1, just the way I'm typing it in, you should get the full library to come up, because they're listed as PS1 Classics. So there we go. We have a list of over 180 games. The prices are going to vary between, it looks like $6 to $10 depending upon the game. So, when you look at the PlayStation Classic, we don't know what all the games are going to be, but there's 20 games on there. If you don't include the hardware and you just say, okay, it's $100, 20 games, it's $5 a game, is that a fair assessment? I say no, because you're also getting controllers and hardware. And if you want to compare that to this, definitely the value per game is better on the Classic versus buying them individually on the PS TV or on the Vita. But, like I said, we don't know what games are being released on that system yet, what the included games are, and it does seem like there will be differences between the regions. So, for sure, people are going to be either disappointed that something didn't make the cut, or that they got games they didn't want to play. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of awesome games on there, but with how big the library was for the PlayStation, it's definitely going to be hard to please everyone. But with this option, at least you can pick and choose what you want, because there are tons of awesome games on here. Both of the Tombas are on here, all the Final Fantasies, everything that you could think of, all the games that they've already announced as well. Like Tekken 3, Ridge Racer Type 4, Wild Arms. Those are all available on here as well. So, even Jammer Lammy. Hey, why not? $6, right? So I don't have a ton of PS1 games downloaded at the moment. I actually do have a decent library of them, but I only have a handful installed because these damn memory cards are pretty dang pricey. And I believe this bundle only came with an 8GB card. So there's that. A lot of cool classics you can buy. Like I said, between $6 to $10. So the value there is really going to depend on what you're looking at. This is a $6 game. It is included on the Classic. So there's that. Definitely an option, right? But, you know, once you boot these up, they're just the PSP, the e-boots of the games. So not something, you know, really crazy. Let's see if this... No, let's go ahead and... We don't want to do that game. Let's try something else. I mean, we're really not going to play these games. We're just going to get into it. Yeah, we'll close Kiwami. As you see, when operating the PSP, playing a well-lit room, whatever. But it does come up with the PlayStation boot sequence, which is pretty cool. And these games are very playable. Sure, with the Classic, we're gonna have like save states and stuff like that. You know, a few extra features. If you already have a PS TV, I mean, you may not want to buy one. If you're a collector, you probably will. But, you know, with a lot of people saying, hey, this is the original PlayStation Classic right here, as far as a mini console goes, yes, there's a lot more you can do with this device, which is really sweet, but the price point and this not being available anymore, you know, not readily available, they're not really sold in the stores widespread. You know, and the prices are going up like crazy on these things, you know, being hackable and all that. So if it's something you don't have and you're interested in, I would definitely try to find a deal out there on OfferUp or Craigslist, or maybe, you know, some old stock in a store that you may be surprised. Like if there's a Kmart still around, maybe they have a couple lying around that nobody goes to Kmart to buy games. I don't think anybody goes to Kmart, period, but you know, there's almost no Kmarts anymore, but stuff like that. That's just kind of a thing that I'm thinking of, you know, looking in the unusual spots to find stuff like this, because it could still be available out there. So, not really going to play this game. We know what Final Fantasy VII looks like, but as you've seen, the game boots up. It does play fine. Everything looks good playing this on your TV. So let's exit out of that. Now let's go ahead and test out, just to show you before we go, the feature that I kind of like the most, which was the PS4 link. So as long as you're connected online on both devices, you should be able to connect to your PS4 and bring up, you know, your dashboard, whatever the heck you want to call it, and play your games through that. So boom, there we go. If we wanted to, we could play some Fortnite. No, I don't want to update that. I don't even play the game. And as you saw there, like if you press the home button, you can either go back to your PS TV screen or just stay on this screen on your PS4. But yeah, we're not really going to jump into anything here. Just wanted to show it works. If your connection's not great, like I do not have either of these devices hardwired right now. Typically, I would if I was using this. I'll have the power line adapters to extend my Ethernet reach. I forget what they're called, power line adapters, whatever. I would use those to hardwire my systems together. You know, scrolling through this, there's a lot of pixelation right now just because I'm going through Wi-Fi instead of hardwired. So if you got to have a really strong connection if you're going through Wi-Fi. No interference or anything like that. Otherwise, the performance and the look is going to be kind of bad. So just wanted to point that out. Definitely a cool option. It's something I wanted to talk about and showcase because a lot of people are bringing this up. I do think it's a viable option, a cool option. For me, not so much on the PS1 Classic stuff. It is kind of cool to have access to that, to buy these games, but hey, it's there. You can use it for that. For me, I'm using it either for PS4 Link or playing Vita games on my TV mostly. So just wanted to share this with you guys. I seriously cannot wait for the PlayStation Classic. I don't care what anybody says. Super excited. So do appreciate you guys stopping in. Smash that like button, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. Really do appreciate it. And I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom.